AAC show.
This week contains some strong language, even more than usual.
Tommy Lee Jones, let's go home. Wesley Snipes, nah, you go home.
Good morning, gentlemen. Seem to have lost our way home, have we? Out of uniform and AWOL is no way to end a career, Jesse. But rest assured, the record will show you all died heroes.
What about the goal?
Well, I believe the answer to that one is what gold?
What's good, y'all? Welcome to another edition of AAC show. I'm Sonny the Afrofuturist, aka Michael, my government name. Now, before I talk about the first film, Posse, first movie/show, I was going to do another Black Western, Adios Amigo, with Richard Pryor and Fred Williamson for episode 7, original episode 7 of AAC show, but I had to attend to something in my personal life. That movie, just in case anybody was following back then, I would give it a 3 out of 5 stars, Adios Amigo. It was very low budget, and the version I found was low quality. Like, I found a version on Tubi, but the version on Tubi was even worse quality than the version I found on YouTube, which was a little better quality. So the movie was watchable, but 3 out of 5 stars, just in case anybody was curious about that. And 2.5 stars for Badass with Danny Trejo. All right, first let's talk about Posse, which I got for $3 at used video store somewhere. Well, used video game DVD store, you know what I'm talking about. All right, so you got Jesse Lee, Lil J, Father Time, Obobo, Angel, and Wheezy. That's the crew that make up Posse. This movie directed by Melvin Van Peebles, who also directed New Jack City, and a movie I really like, the slept-on movie you might not have heard of. I think it's called like Bad Ass or something like that. But basically, it's a movie biopic about how his father, Melvin Van Peebles, made Sweet Sweetback's Badass song. I thought the movie was it was honestly a little bit better than the original Sweet Sweetback's Badass song, but with that movie, like, the behind the scenes is more interesting than the actual movie itself, in my opinion. Some movies are like that, to be honest, where you read the behind the scenes and you're like, oh my goodness, where it'll be more fascinating than the actual movie itself. Alright, so Jesse Lee is the main character. He's played by Melvin Van Peebles. Bobo is played by Tiny Lister Jr., who played Debo in the Friday movies. Angel is played by Tone Loc. With that voice, man, like he was honestly the coolest character to me in this movie. Father Time's played by Big Daddy Kane. He was pretty smooth. I'm not sure who played Wheezy. He was like a former house nigga that reformed house negro. I'm not sure who played him. Kind of reminded me. Nah, he wasn't quite. I'm not gonna do him like that. He wasn't quite like Snowflake up in Glory. And Lil J, I'm not sure who played him. He was like the token white dude for their group. You always need a token white dude in some of these black movies, like Drumline. Now, I did read that Drumline, the producers forced them to put a token white dude up in there. Yeah, or like season 1 of A Different World. Of course, we know that Different World Season 2 was when the show found its groove. Is there a time where that actually worked, when they tried to force the token white character and actually worked? I'm just curious. I'm not a fan of when they do that, but my curiosity is getting the best of me right now. This movie, Posse, was based on history, so I don't think it was forced in here. I think this is based on real life. I got to do a little more research, though. That's one reason I'm really grateful for this movie, is it inspires me to do more research. The movie starts off with some very powerful moments of truth, some very truthful moments about history, about how there were more black cowboys out, and you don't really hear about them, how they're kind of like a lost part of history.
History's a funny thing. They got us believing that Columbus discovered America and the Indians were already here. That's like me telling you, and you're sitting in your car, that I discovered your car. Then they want to call them the evil red savages because they didn't give up the car soon enough. There's one thing about time. No matter how much or how little passes, it changes things. People forget their past, and they forget the truth. But pictures don't lie. Forgotten gunslingers like Nat Love, Hyson Dart, Cherokee Bill, and troops too, like the 9th and the 10th. You see, people forget that almost 1 out of every 3 cowboys was black. Because when the slaves were freed, a lot of them headed out west, built their own towns. Shit, they didn't have much choice. In fact, over half of the original settlers of Los Angeles were black. But for some reason, we never hear their stories.
I was more aware of Black Cowboys from the Solange When I Get Home, little music video movie thing she did. And that tells you a lot because, I mean, it's something I wish I could have learned about in school. So that's one reason I'm really glad this movie exists, because we need to learn more about these Black Cowboys. You know, I want to see more Black Westerns. That was the reason I did Adios Amigo several months back. All right, so now about the movie plot. So Jesse Lee's the main character. It starts off in the middle of the Spanish-American War, 1898 in Cuba. Jesse Lee is the colonel who's the head of his troop. His 10th Cavalry, his all black, all African American group. They're led by this racist colonel, and he's corrupt. He basically double crosses them, and he has to leave. Him and his group, they have to leave. So they got the colonel and the military a little bit after him, because of course, that's against the law to leave the military like that, even though this was a corrupt racist colonel. I'm pretty sure Jesse and Angel were the first folks that formed the Posse, and then Wheezy a little bit after that. I'm saying that to mainly say you first meet Father Time in a card meeting. Father Time is trying to pull one over on everybody. Lil J kind of sticks up for him, so that's how those two meet, and they eventually meet up with the rest of the Posse.
Me? Figured the army was a good way to let things cool off.
Spare my black ass the nostalgia, soldier. That why you stuck your neck out for me? You getting misty-eyed for a partner?
Oh, no. See, as far as partners go, I ain't so sure you'd make a good one. Figure any man who's got your skill getting caught back there like that by fools, he might need some more schooling himself. Now, I got in it back there just for the fun. See, I ain't much on people now. Money's great. Booze is all right. But for me, most of all, it's the thrill. You know, that thrill of knowing you can win it all, or lose it all, in the blink of an eye.
I say one thing, you sure is the kind that'll fart in the bathtub and turn around and bite the bubble.
Damn right.
But maybe after you teach me a thing or two, we can try it again and say, Texas.
And then Wheezy is, I said, a former house Negro. He was basically like the errand boy for them white folks, the sad, going out super sad role. And he does something that helps out, Jesse Lee and them, and then he decides to join their posse. He's sick of taking orders from the white folks. All right, so the posse, they're on the run a little bit from the military and the racist colonel, and also the folks that Father Time and Lil J screwed over in the gambling match. So they're trying to evade them. And Jesse Lee wants a little bit of personal revenge for something that goes back to his childhood, but the movie doesn't actually reveal what it was until maybe like 45 minutes into the movie. The movie's about an hour, 50 minutes.
Afternoon, Watt.
So they're on their outlaw stuff, they're on their outlaw stuff. As I said before, I'm glad this movie exists because I want to research more personally about Black Cowboys. Watching this movie and doing this review will probably inspire me to get some books from the library or just buy some books myself on the topic. Unfortunately, the actual movie itself is a little bit underwhelming. I was tempted to give this a 3 out of 5 stars subjectively, just because I said you don't really see that many Black Westerns out there. You don't see a lot of awareness around Black Cowboys. I don't know how it was in 1993. It might have been even less so back then. It's not that the movie's bad. It's just that it's just kind of by the numbers, pretty standard. Nothing about the movie really pops out per se, and there is a little bit of unnecessary nudity, little bit of female topless nudity, and a little bit of male rear nudity where I was like, hey, yo, I'm not trying to see that. Although in a moment of unintentionally funny moments, there is a sex scene that is like super cheesy, super 90s. I laugh though because it was already kind of cheesy. They got some it's cheesy when you see the candles, and then you hear the saxophone playing in the background. I was like, all right, come on now, man. Y'all hit all the cliches in one. Come on now. I already don't want to watch the sex scene, and y'all making it super cheesy over the top. All right, if I get into other reasons on why I did not quite love this movie. I'll get into some spoilers, so I'm gonna give my final rating for the movie right now. I'm gonna give it a strong 2.5 out of 5 stars. As I said, subjectively, I would give it a 3 out of 5 stars. Real quick, Melvin Van Peebles was also in here. He was really cool as a Papa Joe character up later in the film. Overall, I said I'd just give this movie 2.5 out of 5 stars. I'll say a little bit more about the cast before I get into some spoiler talk. Melvin Van Peebles as the lead, Jesse Lee, I feel like he should have cast somebody different as the lead character, to be honest with you. It's not that he does a bad job. I think Melvin Van Peebles is a decent actor, but he just doesn't have enough charisma to really carry the role for me. Tiny Lister Jr. is decent in the movie, but he does like kind of things you'd expect him to do. Like at one point they have to like just hide themselves in some boxes, and he, of course he's like scared, claustrophobic. They don't completely play it up for laughs like that, but just kind of like, okay, of course the big dude's scared of tight spaces. They don't have a bunch of moments like that with him, but I just want to say that real quick. Wheezy, the former house Negro, is kind of funny because he's always trying to holler at some women, but he doesn't really have much game. But that doesn't stop him. That doesn't stop him. I swear, every time they go up into the saloon or somewhere where there's like some pretty women around for him to holler at, he doesn't hold back on the opportunity. It can be kind of cringe sometimes, but it's also kind of funny. It's like, oh, look at this dude out here. I liked Lil J. There were definitely a few cringe lines from him, but the moment he had a really redeeming moment up in the movie where he sticks up for Wheezy, which I really enjoyed. Yeah, I was like, all right, Lil J sticking up for him, right? As I said before, Angel is the coolest character to me up in this movie. Tone Loc, when you first see him, he is, shooting that gun for real. He's, cocking it back. He looked pretty cool. Big Daddy Kane was pretty solid as Father Time. I enjoyed Father Time up in there. He was pretty solid.
We're still a long ways off.
Not if we take the shortcut through Diablo Pass.
Diablo Pass, that's Sioux territory, Jesse. We go up through there, we're not gonna have no help from no soldiers if we get into trouble.
The red man ain't got no problem with the black man, huh? As for you, white boy, that's a whole different story. I mean, first you enslave the black man, exploit the yellow man, and then you kill off the red man so you can snatch up his land for railroads and such. Can I get a witness? Amen.
Well, if I may approach the bench, Your Honor, first of all, I ain't never personally enslaved nobody. So, Time, you can kiss my white ass. Second of all, if there was a train coming through here on these tracks right now, I'd be on it and you'd be on it. Except the only difference would be I'd be gambling on it and you'd be fetching my chips like a little houseboy. Because you can't even cheat right. Now, can I get a witness? Thank you.
Amen. Jesse, can I kill the cracker now?
Why'd you let the Indians get him? Let's move out.
Also, Isaac Hayes was only in the movie for like 5 minutes and his character died. Yeah, it's kind of like, dang, bro, what did he even sign on to the movie for? He was only in it, maybe it was just the easy check, but dang, man. It's kind of cool to see Isaac Hayes. It was like, oh, Isaac Hayes, and then he died. Pam Grier was in the movie too, but I don't even know if her character had any lines, to be honest with you. She barely had any lines, if any. She was barely up in there. Also, Carl from Family Matters and the cop from Die Hard, Reginald Bell Johnson, was up in here. He had a very, very small role, but it was cool to see him up in here. And spoiler alert, he didn't die. Cool.
Boy, what you doing stealing my apple? I have a good mind to. Oh, what the hell? Go on, take it. Come on, get on out here. Behave now. Ain't that King David's son? Reverend say he got the devil in him. Well, anyway.
All right, now to get into some spoiler talk. They killed Angel, man. They killed the coolest character to me up in this whole movie. When this movie first started, I'm used to watching movies that are set in maybe 70s, 80s, 90s, 2010s. So I haven't watched a lot of Westerns. This is kind of a little bit unfamiliar territory for me. So when Tone Loc first comes on the screen, he's looking super cool. He got that voice. So I'm thinking all right, he's going to help me make it through the movie. Not that I'm thinking this movie's going to be bad or anything like that, but his character was super cool to me. And then they killed him 30 minutes into the movie. That kind of ticked me off a little bit. I'm not going to lie. As I said, this movie is a historical fiction based on some real life people. So I'm not sure if the character that Tone Loc the Angel was based on, died that same way, but it was sort of a bummer for the movie. He's on the poster and everything. Also, he didn't die until later in the movie, but Big Daddy Kane is, Father Time died too, so it's kind of like, dang, the two coolest people in the movie, died. I don't like when movies do that. Don't cool. As I said, this is historical fiction, so it could have went down the way it went down in the movie, but still a little bit of a bummer. I don't like when movies kill the coolest characters. I don't like when movies do that. The violence in this movie, it doesn't really get too graphic or anything like that. There is one scene where they depict a hanging of a Native American person, and that was very, very disturbing to me. I think they kind of did it accurate to how it would have gone down in real life, but it's still very disturbing for me. So, you know, folks are easily like triggered, you know, watch out for that one. I think it was like maybe an hour into the movie. But yeah, I'm glad, you know, we got another Black Western out here. You know, I wanted to keep them coming on that. Obviously, I want them to be good. But yeah, overall, 2.5 out of 5 stars. I'm not going to include a cringe section for this one, just because the only real cringe up in here, besides some Weezy's lines, the main cringe to me was the sex scene, and I'm not going to link that. Because one, you know, I don't want to subject y'all to that when y'all don't want to see the sex scene, and two, obviously that'll get the video banned. You know, I'm not gonna put sex up just in the videos like that. It's not me.
From Television City in Hollywood. Good time. Anytime you need a payment. Good time. Anytime you need a free. Good time. Anytime you're out from under. Not getting hassled, not getting hustled. Keeping your head above water.
Can y'all believe that after all these years, I still don't know all the words to the Good Times theme song? I was looking at, because they got the Good Times theme song lyrics up in this booklet for the season 1 DVD I got, and I was reading over some lyrics, and I'm like, man, I know that's what they said there. Good times anytime you need a payment. Good times anytime you need a friend. Good times anytime you're out from under, not getting hassled, not getting hustled. I thought they were saying make getting hassled, not getting hustled, but they're saying not getting hassled, not getting hustled. Keeping your head above water, making a wave when you can, temporary layouts. Okay, I know that part. So yeah, I got the season 1 DVD. I got season 2 somewhere at my mom's house. I can't find it. I need to find it. I do want to get season 3 on DVD too. When it comes to Good Times, to me, the show's only the show when John Amos, James Evans is up in there. Once he's off after season 3, I don't really watch the show. So to me, Good Times only has 3 seasons, similar to how Boondocks only has 3 seasons. That's a more grown-up show, just in case there's any kids watching. I like how my season 1 box set includes an episode guide. I think every show that comes on DVD, every TV show that comes on DVD should include an episode guide, because I'm not going to always remember off the top of my head what each episode is about, unless it's, I mean, every now and then you might have a show like that where you've seen every episode that many times, but I prefer when they have an episode guide. That helps out. Though I do, this is kind of cringe right here, though. I'm not the biggest fan of that, that right there. Because I'll just address it right now before I get into the whole review of the show. If you do not know, you could look this up. John Amos was really against how they were trying to make Jimmy Walker's character of JJ into kind of like a buffoon, the coon character. The producers really tried to play him up as like the coon character, you know, kind of this buffoon. There was one time where I was talking with some folks. I think there's only maybe one other black dude in there. He was mixed, but you know, he was a brother. He was cool. We were at a bar and we were talking, and Good Times happened to come up. And one white lady said, you know, JJ's catchphrase, you know, the dynamite. And then, you know, I mentioned that, you know, I liked the show until, you know, they, spoiler alert, killed off the dad after season 3, and the show got kind of weird. And then I kind of got dead silence in the room as if they didn't know what I was talking about. Some of his lines are funny. You know, I'm not gonna act like he doesn't have any funny lines at all. I'm sure Jimmy Walker is a very talented person. I haven't seen any of his stand-up or anything like that, but, you know, I just gotta, you know, address the coonery buffoonery, as Spike Lee would say. Right, so if you're unfamiliar with the show, it's basically about a black family living in the projects of Chicago and their day-to-day life, them going through it, them struggling, but still coming together as a family, still persevering and still holding their head up high. You know, and making it through and having good times. I remember one time as a kid, my mom was like, why do they call it Good Times? Are they trying to like say something? Maybe, I don't know, man. I know every now and again I see Hollywood be sending them subliminals out. Another brief piece of trivia on this show, the Black Panthers eventually got mad with TV executives, the TV companies. They were like, all right, we don't want the only image out there to be of black folks struggling. So that kind of led to the Jeffersons being made. I might just link an article about that, a little bit of history about the Black Panthers and the creation of the Jeffersons too, because I do find that pretty interesting. Just saying, the Black Panthers, they weren't perfect, but they get a bad rep. They get a bad rep out here. Speaking of Black Panthers, let's use that as a segue up into good times. So you got the youngest, Michael, who's sometimes called the militant midget. He's 11 years old. He's all about Black unity, about Black progress, in a way that you might not expect a lot of the kids his age to be. You got Thelma, who's 16 years old, got that marvelous afro, always trying to upkeep that afro. You got JJ, the oldest, who is a painter. To be honest with you, Thelma doesn't have as much characterization as Michael and JJ beyond like arguing at JJ. They argue a lot. This is a sitcom. This is a 70s sitcom, so I do expect them zingers, them back and forth insults. You got the head of the household, James. John Amos, my favorite character on the show. He don't take no mess. He doesn't play. He's gonna do what he needs to do to provide for the family, and he's always gonna keep the home in order.
All right, you two out. Well, I got one last thing to say to you, Michael. Better you than me. Junior, if you don't split, you're gonna be next.
You got Florida, Esther Roll, who I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'll talk a little bit more in length about it. Can be kind of a buster in some episodes, because she's a little more old-fashioned and religious than James in a way that can kind of get on your nerves sometimes. I'm not trying to diss old-fashionedness or religiousness at all, but you'll see what I'm talking about more when I talk about her a little bit more at length. Lastly, but not least, you got Willona, who's their neighbor. She's kind of, I don't want to say the main comic relief of the show, but she kind of comes through. She'll be cracking some jokes. She's a little bit flirty. But I like her. She's a fun character. I like most of the characters on this show. JJ can be a bit annoying at times, and as I said, Florida can be a bit of a buster. I'll tell you what I'm talking about here in a little bit. She's kind of lame. Like, come on, Florida, be chill, be cool. So this is the first season of the show. As I said, the show only has 3 seasons for me. This season was only 13 episodes. I think seasons 2 and 3 are full, like 24, 25 episodes or something like that. So the plots of this season entail mostly either the family going through something and trying to find some way to get up out of that problem or to solve the problem, or something that has to deal with one of the kids.
A job? What the hell good is a job? Man, I got a job. I got 2 jobs. Hell, I had jobs all my life. But I want something more for my son. I want him to have an opportunity. And you and I both know that opportunities only come through an education.
Either James Evans Jr. gets a good education, or we gonna know why.
That's right.
But folks, the system.
Hey, Mr. Kirkman, please don't make me tell you what you can do with your system.
In the first episode on the DVD, it was actually, but the third episode aired in real time, but it is listed as the pilot episode, so it's technically the first episode. They're just trying to get together some money for the rent. That's the big dilemma. In another episode, Michael sends letters of complaints about conditions of the building that aren't being met to a newspaper, and that letter gets published, and someone from the newspaper comes to have dinner with the family. In another episode, you have a televangelist who's an old friend of James, who Florida doesn't trust for a heartbeat. You also have, I said you have episodes about the kids. You have specific episodes that entail more around one of the parents too. You got an episode where James is trying to get a new job that's going to pay more hourly and really help out the family. You got another one later in the season where Florida gets a chance to be in a TV commercial. I'll get into Thelma's a little bit more later, but one of the ones that revolved around her, I was like, okay, what were they thinking with this plot? Like, the actors did the best they could, but the plot itself, ooh. So you got one where Michael gets suspended from school for saying something about some choice of words about George Washington and his business choices, to say the least. I'll actually talk about more about that episode here in a second, because that was one of my favorites from this season. You got one where Junior finally gets a patron, someone that financially supports his art. He is a painter, as I mentioned earlier. So my favorite episode from this overall season, Michael gets suspended. In this episode, he gets suspended from school because he calls George Washington a white racist. And Florida's being a buster because she's like, well, where do you get off talking about our president like that? It's like, yeah, George Washington was a white racist. I don't know how different things were in the 70s, but I would imagine that would be kind of an obvious fact. I mean, it's unfortunate he got suspended from school for it, but Michael stands his ground. Even James has something to say, some choice of words to say towards Michael. They said he sometimes is called the militant midget. I'll just go ahead and give a spoiler for that episode. Eventually, because he got the Black history that he knows, the stuff he got about George Washington, he actually owned slaves. He got it from this book on Black history they got from the library, some stuff they weren't teaching in the school. Eventually, he was going to get a whooping because he disrespects James. You know, now that was back when you got whoopings, you know. I do want to say that in the non-spoiler section, because that is a key part of this show. Whoopings, man. That's back when you got whoopings for real. Eventually, James starts reading the book, and he's like, man, there's some cool stuff up in here. You're going to have to renew this book from the library. I don't care if it's due. You know, I want to keep reading this stuff. And that's one reason why James is my favorite character on this show.
He was a black man. He was the first man to die in the Revolutionary War.
One of us fought in the Revolutionary War?
More than one. There was Peter Salem. He was the hero at Bunker Hill.
Well, I'll be damned.
But the school don't teach you about that, and they also don't teach you about Dr. Daniel Hale Williams. He did the first open heart surgery in this country. Or about Pedro Alonso Nino, who's...
Oh, now, wait a minute now. That named Pedro Alonso Nino couldn't be no brother.
Well, he was. He sailed with Columbus.
He did the rowing, didn't he?
He was a navigator.
You know what, son? Next Columbus Day, I'm taking off from work.
He really tries hard to provide for this family. The character James only has a 6th grade education, so that limits his job opportunities. So he really goes through it in some episodes. John Amos is a great actor. There is one particular episode where he's particularly stressed to the point where he like throws and breaks a chair in the apartment. His acting in that episode was great acting. This is random, but Moms Mabley is like the target of 2 jokes. Just randomly, like in 2 episodes, they just throw Moms Mabley shots. I was just like, why? You know, in episode 6, and I think episode 8, episode 13 was the other one. Now, I said in the last AAC show at the very end when I announced that I was going to do Good Time Season 1 that I watched the show as a kid. I do have some nostalgia for it, so watching this was kind of a nostalgic trip, especially hearing the theme song, the opening theme song and the theme song that's playing over the end credits. They get some nostalgia feels there for sure. Watching this as an adult, and I was aware of this as a kid. I think my dad told me about it a little bit, and maybe I read a little bit online, but my dad was the first person that told me about it. I couldn't help but wonder, watching this now as an adult, how differently the show would have looked if John Amos didn't push back with the writers on some of the material in the show. Because I did a little bit of research. I looked up the writers, and it turns out that most of the writers for the season were white. There were a handful of black writers, but very few. There were only 2 episodes where the main writers were black. That was the Black Jesus episode and the one where the checkup, where the Black Jesus episode about the painting, and the checkup where James is especially stressed out. They're concerned about his stress levels. I'll probably just link some of an interview with John Amos where he's talking specifically about his issues with the writers and some of the internal battles that went on about the material of this show. I mean, one of the writers, he worked on the Andy Griffith Show. You know, Andy Griffith Show's funny, but I mean, that's about as white as you get. You know, that's one of the whitest shows of all time. Andy Griffith Show's funny, I'm not gonna lie. You know, Barney's a funny character. You know, I'm not gonna lie. But you know, that's about as white as they come right there. In real life, Barney might have been some trouble, you know. Like, hey, fire Barney, man. Hey, get him off the force. Most of the writers are white, but I did notice that Eric Monty, one of the creators on the show, the 2 co-creators for the show, Eric Monty and Mike Evans, the original Lionel from The Jeffersons, were black. They said that Eric Monty was a script supervisor on like most of the episodes, if not all of these episodes. So what I'm imagining kind of right now is maybe it was a situation where they hired like some of the top TV writers in the field, because maybe that would just help keep their show on. And, you know, writers that didn't know nothing about black people, as John Amos said in the interview. And, you know, John Amos just had some pushback with them. But you do, I mean, I just think it's kind of interesting how, like, some of my favorite episodes from this season actually had some black folks working on the script. I just find that interesting.
Hi, Graham. What you got there? This is Black Jesus. Oh, that's nice. He's hanging there for Black History Week. Junior painted him.
Oh, Elma, when I sent you into the kitchen, I told you to clean, not lean. Junior, What made you paint Black Jesus?
His face came to me in a vision.
It seems to be coming to me in a vision, too. It's Ned the wino.
Uh-oh.
Some of the lines you're like, okay, who wrote this? Like there's one line in the Michael gets suspended episode where I'm thinking like, all right, they should just wrote nigga there instead. Where James didn't know that a black man had sailed with Columbus. You know, Michael's telling some stuff about his book, and he says a spook sailed with Columbus. I'm thinking in my head, okay, did black people say spook in that way back then? They should just have him say nigga instead. And there's another line where like Michael's like on his like black unity stuff, and then Florida says, Michael, ain't no time to be black. You know, at some point I'm like, okay, I feel like a white person wrote that. Real quick, sometimes JJ's paintings are a little bit out there, you know, like there's one painting where he has like a basketball player and like one of the arms is like disproportionately longer than the rest of his body, and they're kind of like roasting him a little bit. I was kind of on their side a little bit, you know. I was like, all right, I'm not the biggest art guy out there, but I'm kind of like, all right, this one's a little bit out there. All right, before I talk about my favorite episodes from this season, besides the Michael gets suspended one, and give my final ratings for the whole season and each episode, I will say there was one episode where I definitely had some beef with the main storyline. Now, it was the only one really from this season where I was like, okay, where both my eyebrows raised, and I was like, all right, flag on the play. Episode 7, Sex in the Evans Family, and this episode might have had a little content advisory before it aired when I was a kid, but I remember this episode made me a little bit nervous because they were talking about sex in this book. So they find a book in the apartment, Sexual Behavior in the Ghetto. They first think JJ has the book, but the main plot in the episode, besides them finding that book and trying to figure out whose book it is Thelma is supposed to go on a date with a 21-year-old, and her character is 16. Now, I said there's moments in this season like this too where it was kind of like, all right, like for example, like Florida's supposed to be religious, but sometimes JJ will be saying like sexual innuendos in front of her, and it's like, all right, she's supposed to be so religious, you know, why would she be cool with him saying these jokes in front of her? But like I was just not cool with that storyline, and I just thought it was just kind of out there, considering how religious Florida's supposed to be and how no nonsense James is supposed to be.
Thank you, ma'am. Is Thelma ready?
Ready for what?
The concert starts in about a half an hour.
Oh, she'll be ready in a little while. You know how girls are.
Yes.
Yeah, I bet you.
Won't you sit down?
Yes, thank you.
Would you like a drink? A cup of coffee? A soda pop?
No thanks.
Why don't you offer my belt of booze? It's 21, ain't it?
And spoiler alert, the date ends up continuing because of how, you know, educated and intelligent the 21-year-old brother is. 70s were a different time, but I'm calling bogus, you know, BS on the plot. I was not a fan of that. Yeah. That's my lowest rated episode from this entire season. As I mentioned before, Michael Gets Suspended is my favorite episode from this season. It was written by Eric Monty. He wrote the teleplay. Eric Monty also wrote the pilot episode, Getting Up the Rent. You know, I mentioned before they're trying to just get some money from the rent. It was the third episode that aired, but it is the pilot episode. My other two personal favorites from this season, episode 2, Black Jesus, written by two brothers, John Donnelly and Kurt Taylor. In this episode, it's Black History Week at school, I believe. Or, you know, Michael is celebrating Black History Week, so he finds a painting in the closet that JJ did, a painting that looks kind of like a Black Jesus, so he decides to hang the painting up. They normally have a white Jesus painting up in the apartment.
Lord, I know it ain't right to ask for selfish things, but we need help bad, and we need it fast. I know you don't want to see this family out in the street. Lord, you gotta help us.
So after he hangs up this painting, they get some good luck, and it turns out Michael putting up this painting kind of inadvertently leads to some luck for the Evans family. So everybody wants to keep the Black Jesus painting up, except for Florida being a buster. Jesus wasn't white, you know. At the very least, you know, Jesus was like Middle Eastern. You know, Jesus wasn't white.
Come right from the Internal Revenue.
I thought you owed them.
I did, and I paid them out of what they owed me.
What?
You remember last year all that money was spent on that operation you had?
Yeah.
Well, baby, it turned out that money was what they call a medical deduction. After I finished paying them, I still walked out the door with 140 big ones. I tell you, Floyd, I can't believe it. It's like we all of a sudden got a miracle.
My other favorite episode from this season, besides the Michael gets suspended and the Black Jesus episode, The Visitor, episode 9 from this season. This was actually written by some light writers. Maybe John Amos had some input in there. Maybe he had input in every episode. It would be interesting to hear some extensive commentary for each episode, some audio commentary. The DVD I have doesn't really have any bonus features on it at all. That'd be kind of interesting to hear some commentary and hear some specific behind the scenes on particular scenes in the show and particular lines. I believe I mentioned this before, but yeah, in The Visitor, Michael had written a letter to a newspaper about the conditions of their apartment and some of the stuff that wasn't being fixed. And the letter actually gets published and someone from the newspaper comes to visit the Evans family. So in terms of like laugh out loud moments for a sitcom, because to me, like sitcoms kind of vary in terms of which are like laugh out loud funny and which are more just kind of throw on for a solid watch. May not be the biggest laughs in the world, but it's still a good show. This is kind of middle of the pack, maybe just slightly above middle of the pack. To me, if I had to pick like funniest 70s black sitcom or just a funny 70s sitcom in general, I'd probably go with Sanford and Son. I pretty much always get some laugh out loud moments when I throw on an episode of Sanford and Son. That's probably number one for me if I had to pick one. This does have some solid laugh out loud moments here and there, but it's not like, you know, the same as like a Sanford and Son. There was, if I could find it online, I'll probably link it, but Winona has like an unintentional burn of Florida in the TV commercial episode. It was just hilarious. In case I can't find it, I'll just say what it is. She's like, Florida's like, I wonder why they picked me for the commercial. I'm just pretty plain face. And then Wilona's like, well, yeah, you know, that's who they're picking for these commercials. You know, you're the perfect person. You know, just regular, plain face, don't stand out. You know, she just like, she's not even trying to roast her, but she accidentally roasts her. One thing I almost forgot to mention, so James and Florida, they're fairly dark-skinned, and JJ's kind of dark-skinned, but Thelma and Michael are light-skinned, especially Michael. So I don't know what happened with the casting there, but I did just kind of want to point that out. That's something I noticed rewatching this season. Oh, and also on that painting they show at the end of the theme song, is that supposed to be Lona with like her boobs low-key sticking out? Like, are they trying to say like Wilona's a thought? Like, dang, y'all. James Evans is probably the comedy MVP and the MVP of this show. He really holds the family down, holds the family together, really does what he needs to do. And some of his laugh out loud moments come in moments of like him being angry, but like because you can like feel him, you know what I mean? Like you understand why he's angry, and he says something like completely rational in that moment. That just kind of makes the moment funny sometimes. But he don't play. James don't play. I like that about him. Michael's also kind of a comedy MVP. He's really funny. I like him. He has a catchphrase, mama, or just whoever. He says, boy is a white racist word. That's his catchphrase. You hear that at various moments throughout the season. I wonder if I'm gonna hear that up in season 2. I gotta find my season 2 DVD. So yeah, I said I have to find my season 2 DVD, so that means that I have to give the show like at least a 7 out of 10. I'm gonna rate each episode out of 10. I've said before, with TV shows, instead of doing out of 5 stars, I do out of 10, since there's more episodes. Well, since there's episodes instead of just like one thing. So for TV shows, I rate out of 10 instead of out of 5 stars, which I do for movies. So now I'm gonna rate each episode out of 10. All right, season 1, episode 1, Getting Up the Rent, 7.1 out of 10. Episode 2, Black Jesus, 7.7 out of 10. Episode 3, Two Old Blues, 7 out of 10. This episode was kind of sad, but it was good at the same time. Episode 4, God's Business is Good Business, 6.7 out of 10. Episode 5, Michael Gets Suspended, 7.7 out of 10. Episode 6, Junior Gets a Patron, 7.1 out of 10. Episode 7, Sex and the Evans Family, 6.7 out of 10. Okay, I lied. That got the same rating as episode 4. Episode 4 was just a little bit dry. This one, that was why episode 4 got a 6.7 out of 10. Episode 7, because of the plot I mentioned before. Episode 8, Junior the Senior, 7 out of 10. Episode 9, The Visitor, 7.4 out of 10. Episode 10, Springtime in the Ghetto, 7.2 out of 10. Episode 11, The TV Commercial, 7.1 out of 10. Episode 12, The Checkup, 7.2 out of 10. And episode 13, My Son the Lover, 6.7 out of 10. Okay, that got the same rating as those other two. But the Sex and the Evans Family was because of moral objections. It wasn't because like the episode was a little bit dry compared to other episodes. So I'm not really going to do a cringe section. This was aired in the 70s. I mentioned the thing about John Amos and his beef with the writers and the material on this show. So I'm not really going to include a cringe section because I probably include like too much. It's not like it's a harsh watch or anything like that. Like there's just cringe lines like left and right, left and right, left and right. And cringe is obviously subjective, or, you know, can be subjective. Overall, I'm going to give the entire season of Good Times Season 1 a 7.1 out of 10. This is a pretty good show to me. I do have some nostalgia attached to it. I was as objective as possible when reviewing, rating each episode. But, you know, this is a fairly decent watch. I do kind of enjoy it. As I said, I feel like the glue of the show, the person, the main cast member that I really enjoyed, John Amos playing James Evans. As I said before, after he was gone, the show's not really worth watching at all, in my opinion. Other people might tell you something otherwise. I mean, I know there's like the Janet Jackson storylines in later seasons, but I haven't seen them. I've seen maybe bits and pieces, flipping to it on like TV here and there, but I don't think I've ever, to be honest with you, I don't think I've actually sat down and watched an entire episode that didn't have James Evans, played by John Amos, in it. Maybe like one or two, but I can't even really remember it. Well, all right. Thank y'all for tuning in. That is 7.1 out of 10 for Good Times Season 1. 2.5 out of 5 stars for Posse, the movie. Posse was subtitled The Revenge of Jesse Lee on HBO Max. I don't think it was subtitled like that on my video. No, it wasn't. I just double checked. Next week, we're going family friendly on the AAC show. We got The Wiz, College Road Trip, 2 rated G movies. I mean, they probably could have been rated PG, but they're family friendly movies for the most part. The Wiz is kind of like a Thanksgiving movie, so that's why I'm doing that one in particular. College Road Trip, I just felt like doing it. Kind of a Thanksgiving type movie, you know, holidays movie. Once again, thanks for tuning in. Have a blessed week.